Thanks so much. Welcome everyone to Writing Clinical Study Protocol. So first off, I just want to very briefly introduce myself. So I have been writing clinical study protocols for over 6 years now. I started my career in the medical device industry and then eventually moved over into the pharmaceutical industry. And now I actually am an independent medical writer and have supported a variety of companies in developing their own clinical study protocols. And I know we have a pretty diverse group of people on this call today. So one thing I want you just to kind of keep in mind as we're going through examples and things through the webinar is that regardless of the type of study you're working on, whether it's device-related, drug-related, phase 1, phase 4, industry-sponsored, investigator-sponsored, most of the concepts around writing clinical study protocols really are consistent across whatever type of protocol you're writing. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We have a lot to get through today. We're going to talk about a lot. We have a lot to get through. So we're going to go through just some basics of the structure of a protocol, the regulatory requirements. We're also going to talk a little bit of just about study designs in general, and then actually how you work with teams to develop protocols. And if at any point during this, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box and we can make sure when we get to a good pausing point, I can address those. First off, what is a protocol? I think a very important thing to remember is that it's actually a legal document that outlines the study plan for a clinical trial. So it basically includes everything that the people performing the study need to know to execute on it properly. So it has the objectives, everything about the study design, the methodology for collecting data, the population to be studied, many of your statistical considerations, and then basic information around the ethical conduct and organization of the trial. And it's designed to answer very specific research questions while safeguarding the health of your subjects. So when you're thinking about the goal of the protocol, something you need to think about is what you're actually writing, how you're writing it, and who you're actually writing it for. So a properly designed protocol is written so that anyone who reads it has the exact same takeaway message. You don't want certain people reading the protocol and interpreting it one way while other people interpret it a different way. Within your protocol, you want to define a process for data collection that answers a question or usually more than one question. So it sounds pretty simple, but you really have to know your audience. Additionally, you need to understand writing basics because if you can't write something that's clear and concise, then people may not understand what you're actually trying to say. You want to be consistent, so not only with nomenclature across your protocol, but also in just making sure you're not saying something in one section that sounds contradictory to something in another section, because there are some redundancies within a protocol. You also really want to understand the regulatory environment, and also knowing what goes where. Most people, when they look at a clinical study protocol, once you've done enough or seen enough protocols, you really know kind of where to look to find specific information. So it's good to make sure when you're writing a protocol, you follow some of those same kind of parameters so it's easy to find what someone's looking for. So who is your audience for a protocol? There are a lot of different people that will be eventually looking at your protocol. So when it comes to if you're working for a company or an academic center, you'll have internal reviewers and collaborators that are helping you develop this protocol or that need to be able to interpret your protocol. One example of that is, say, your data management team. They need to be able to look at your protocol and then build out, say, your case report forms. You'll also have usually a contract research organization if you hire one of these to kind of help you execute on your clinical trial. So they need to be able to interpret your protocol in the same way. You'll have site personnel, institutional review boards, independent ethics committees, and then also regulatory authorities. And this will depend where your study is actually being performed. If it's just in the U.S., you'll have the FDA, but you may have a large international study and have multiple regulatory authorities involved.